See. You know, we all work with people, do we not? Who just kind of put in the minimum effort. You know, they're there to get the paycheck. They are, they're not really engaged. They're not really down with what the company stands for. They not only are they not down with the mission statement, they're not even sure what the mission statement is. It looks like 2021 might be one of those years where you have a choice to make if you are one of those employees. You either get with the program, you drink the Kool-Aid, you buy into it, or you start looking for something else. At least that's what our next guest, I think, is going to tell us. His name is Rod Robertson. Rod has a lot of experience in the business world. He's seen a lot of trends in business. He's the co-author of the book, The Human Vector, also an international entrepreneur. All right, how much of the Kool-Aid do I need to drink, Rod?
You know, Jimmy, it sounds like you're already drinking the right Kool-Aid to me. You know,
I can't say I agree with everything my company does, but I understand it's their company to run, and I understand that you either get with the policy and you support the program, or you find something else to do in life. That's one of the reasons why this old radio broadcasting dinosaur has lived as long in this business as he has. But, you know, if you don't even understand what the company stands for, if you don't understand what the mission statement is, if you don't understand what they're telling you because that's what they think you want to hear versus what they really mean, I think that's the biggest thing people need to understand, because there are a lot of companies out there, Rod, that have a mission statement of, you know, we like pushback. We like people to question our policies. You know, we're not looking for yes men and yes women. All of that is a bunch of BS, especially now. I
agree.
You better know what the mission statement is, and you better buy into it, or at the very least, you better shut up if you don't.
Absolutely, and you know, the year of 2020 is really going to separate the people that are with the company or the people that have just been enjoying this big ride up that the American economy's had for years. Now, with the disruption in the economy, the virus, we're all tired of hearing about this. And you know what? Next year, the great Americans and the good Americans are going to surge ahead, and the lazy ones are going to get left to the side of the road. And so, or people are going to have to move to the vector, which we call in our book the human vector, which the vector is the characteristics of the ownership in the company, and get aligned with the interests of the company and get to work. I mean, Bill Gates and other people now are saying a third of the people in this new world environment, a third of the people are going to be going to work as usual. A third are going to be in flux, going back and forth, working, doing what they're doing, and a third are working from home. Well, that means 2/3 of the people are going to be without supervision, and half of those people aren't doing their job. And, you know, they could get away with it before, and now that the government subsidies are over and that we're all helping each other out, but next year in 2021, everyone's going to have to line up and do their job, or they're going to get whacked, cut, or downsized.
Yeah,
so that's all there is to it. People are
that makes perfect sense to me, and I think what you're saying is that right now, you know, we're still kind of dealing with this COVID world, and although people have been taking some temporary pay cuts and maybe losing some vacation time or have made some other sacrifice in the name of the company, at the end of the day, companies haven't really had a full opportunity, have they, to assess just how deep the damage is.
Yeah, no matter what anyone says, we're not a socialist country. We are a country based upon hard work and hard ethics, and I'm sure most of your listeners are those type of Americans. And what they have to do, though, is people have been easing off. I mean, I know that the third of the people working at home, people are stretching and taking yoga at lunch instead of having lunch with the boss and going through their numbers. I mean, people have been taking advantage of this, and I sit on all sorts of boards, and we're having meetings all day long, and we're putting zeros on people's backs that we know are at home thinking they're surfing along, but everyone's got to wake up and get with the company message.
It's pretty hard to hide, though, if you're in certain sorts of occupations, right? If you're a sales guy, how and you're just, you know, goofing off, you're not getting out there selling stuff, that shows up pretty quickly, doesn't it?
It does and it doesn't, because everyone's been giving everyone a break. But I can tell you, the January 1st is going to be the new starting gate, and people are going to sit there and say, we are going to cut overhead by 20%. And you know what? We're going to keep the great people, and the people that are at home, doing what they have to do and not doing company business, those people better wake up. And, this whole virus shakedown is great for the young people. I mean, they're going to thrive ahead. There's going to be a lot of dead wood in the organization that they've always had a reward to that's going to get washed out, and they're going to be able to jump and accelerate their careers by 10 years. So I think it's an awesome situation for the young, and for the older people like myself and everyone working, we better pay attention to these young people and find a mentor so they can teach us about technology.
Wow, that's an opposite way of thinking for a lot of older Americans, isn't it, to find a young person to mentor you?
Oh, absolutely. And I have a young guy from Facebook now who he can't believe what a nitwit I am, and he stares at me with astonishment. He says, "You don't know this?" And I'm saying, "Hey, young fella." And it's a new world, and we all should find that young mentor, because the world is flowing toward technology. And in fact, there was a new stat out last week, and the last 5 months, it was planned it was going to take 10 years to jump ahead in technology and e-commerce. And this acceleration is going to continue, and people that aren't going to technology are really going to get left behind. So, like it or not, you got to get on the tech train. You got to train yourself at night. You have to listen to the smart people at work, and you have to listen to the bosses if you want to stay in the groove.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. There are people who always have opportunity in times like these. That's the thing. The thing you find out, and I think COVID is a great example of that. And it's a silly example, Rob, but I knew you could appreciate this because it's a business world example. There's some businesses we all know, restaurateurs who have shut down and are likely not to reopen again. But by the same token, I know people, especially here in Houston, in the pool business, who are making money hand over fist because all of a sudden people who weren't willing to invest in a swimming pool for their backyard would rather just pay some dues and go to the community pool. They don't want to take their kids to the community pool anymore. They're afraid to do it. They want to be able to keep their kids in their own backyard where they can watch them. They want the kids to play in the pool in their own backyard so they don't have to worry about who else is there and whether or not they're infected with something. There always are business opportunities, even in the worst of times.
Yes, and this is what America's great about. We flow to opportunity like no other country on earth. And you know what? All these restaurant workers that we feel for, you know what? They're going to be great salespeople. They're going to have other jobs. They're going to work for the pool company. They're going to be executives somewhere, and they're going to do it. And and then woe to the people over 45 or so that everyone's going to say, hey, these people aren't with it. That's not true. You don't have to be a full-time employee anymore. You can be a gig employee, and all of us don't like about 50-60% of the job we do, the mechanical or technical or people part. Well, as a gig employee, you can do what you're really good at, mentoring, coaching, teaching, and selling, or whatever you're good at. Do that, and just have a couple jobs, and don't get stuck behind some young whippersnapper who's going to browbeat you, and you're not going to like it.
Ron, what are some of the trends you're seeing? Obviously, you had some overall business trends for 2021. What are you seeing as far as up and coming businesses that maybe are evolving as a result of COVID-19 and the way we do business now? And where are some of the areas where you think these are deadweight businesses and they're not long for the world?
Yeah, that's the big question. Is 40% of the businesses that are wounded and are not working, half of those are going to go out of business. So that's 20% of the businesses in the United States are going to lock up shop, and 20% that are wounded ducks, they have to pivot to technology and to e-commerce. That is where the future is. I mean, look at furniture companies. What a boring, staid old business, but you know what? They are hot and interesting. Everyone building out their home theaters, their home offices, and they've all pivoted, the ones that are surviving, toward e-commerce. So all of us, I think we should know, and we should all try to learn at night. We just shouldn't go home and sit down and watch Netflix. We have to sit down and understand and start educating ourselves on e-commerce, e-technology, listening to podcasts and to really smart people, and letting the people that you work with understand that you're pivoting on your own and you're in the groove for the future.
You know, it's funny. You should bring up the topic of furniture. There's a guy here in Houston. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or not. His name is Jim McInvale. They call him Mattress Mac. He has a place called Gallery Furniture. It's a fixture. He's hugely community involved. He is out there. He is everywhere. He's, like I said, he's a fixture in the community. His big thing is American-made furniture. He buys from the Amish, and he has a supply of furniture coming into his store, and because of the volume he deals with, he has a supply coming in that his competition doesn't. So while they're back ordering furniture for people, 6 months down the road, he can get it for you tomorrow. So there's a great example of somebody who took a different business model, made it a different kind of a furniture store, and when something comes along that disrupts the supply chain, he's still doing fine. In fact, he'll end up doing better because his competition will end up folding.
Yes, and you could see all the empty storefronts. Everyone's bemoaning that. The retailers going out. Okay, people are going to step into those storefronts. They're going to do different things with those storefronts. There's going to be service businesses run out of there, technology. They're going to turn a lot of them into housing. I mean, what is passé today? The malls are changing, but you know what? They're all going to be repurposed, and this is what America is great at. We all pivot to the future, and you watch the rest of the world. I mean, I have the pleasure doing business around the world, and nobody is doing as well in this pandemic as we are about keeping into the game. And God bless our government. They're, whatever you think, they're helping a lot of us out, and it's just been great. And it's really separated America from the rest of the world as far as many of us are concerned.
What do you think? Well, we're running out of time here, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with commercial real estate. But there's an opportunity, too, for people to get less rent and more space, or less space and less rent, and cut their costs that way, too. So there's always an opportunity when you have something like this going on. Rod, thanks. Good to talk to you. Appreciate your time, sir.
My pleasure.
Yep. International entrepreneur, co-author of the book, The Human Vector. That is Rod Robertson joining us here on AM 950 KPRC. Jimmy Barrett Show, final segment coming up next. It is 4:50 now.